This week, we're talking about a Shelby that you could take off-road. We also have a NASCAR legend in the building, Tony Stewart. That's right. But first, a supercar from Long Beach? What?
It runs on fish tacos.
I'm sure driving it is sublime. Welcome to the Big Three. Big thanks to Yamaha for sponsoring this podcast. Life's an adventure. Share the journey. Check out the all-new Wolverine R-Max 41000 at YamahaMotorsports.com and see your local Yamaha dealer today. Always protect the environment and wear your seatbelt, helmet, eye protection, and protective clothing. Read the owner's manual and product warning labels before operation. Thanks, Yamaha. Some people just know that they can save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Just like we check the weather first before going out to the track, we put a lot of work into these cars. We don't want to be sliding around in the wet just to nullify any gains we have made. Checking first is smart, so check with Allstate first and see how much you could save on car insurance. You're in good hands with Allstate. Potential savings vary, including based on how you buy. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. Hello and welcome back to the Big Three, everybody. If you are new to the show, this is our weekly news show, 3 big stories a week. Sometimes we do interviews. It's been a lot of fun. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Nolan Sykes. Sitting next to me is Joe G. Weber.
What's up?
And we got Max Maddox.
Greetings, fellow car lovers and freaks.
Well, Max, you had seems like a not so great weekend.
I had a pretty weird weekend.
What happened?
I was filling up my tank at the local Arco.
Oh,
and
I know what's gonna happen.
and I don't always get to go to that Arco because there's always a line because cheapest gas in my town. And sure enough, there was a great spot right at pump number 3, and I pulled in and I started filling up, and my windshield is filthy, so I was just washing it off with that bucket.
Okay.
Got back in my car, started it up, drove off, and ripped the hose out.
Oh my God.
$500 down the drain, right?
It was not that bad. It was $120.
Oh, really?
And I
I'm gonna
just
start
so
ripping them
happened.
fuckers off, dude.
You could just do it for fun if you wanted to. They were like, yeah, it's going to be $120. Just pay us cash.
Jeez.
And so I had been to the casino after your wedding, and I happened to win $120 from the slot machine, and I had the cash on me. And I was like,
Wow, dude.
easy come, easy go.
Instant wash.
I had a friend in high school whose summer job was repairing those things like all over SLO County.
It happens
He'd be
all
in
the
a
time, I
truck
bet.
all day, and they went from like SLO to like Fresno and like just the King City, like that was his like zone, but he was just
How
covered
often
in
do you
gas
think
all the time.
How often do you think it comes off per day?
All the time. People
Really?
break those things all the time.
And it's just a quick release, right?
Yeah. I think
So that's such a cash grab.
Cash
It's a
grab.
cash grab.
It's a cash grab.
Well, you gotta have someone who's certified to put it back on.
Really got to test it and make sure
gotta
it's
be
sealed.
tested, all that
and, yeah.
kind of stuff.
Also, to
Exactly.
be fair, I mean, they are losing out on
$120.
business because that pump's not working. So
exactly.
I get it. But so I did that. And then the next day, I've got this TE37 in my living room that I'm turning into a table. And I just kind of like bumped it into my brand new TV that I bought. Turned the TV on later, just missing dozens of pixels, line going through the whole thing. It's completely broken.
Sucks, dude.
Horrible.
And then, so anyway, I'm having a weird time.
My weekend was a little bit better. I went to the final IMSA race of the season, Petit Le Mans at Atlanta Road Atlanta. It was a really fun experience. We're going to show like an edited version of what we did next week because we shot so much footage. We talked to
on the street stuff.
We talked to so many fans. It was a great experience.
Some of the drivers too, right?
Yeah. We got to interview Felipe Nasser, who it's gonna be old news now, but he won the entire championship, and we interviewed him before the race, and it just felt cool to be like, you're probably gonna win this whole thing, and you're sitting down with a schlub like me. It was a really fun experience, and thank you to Porsche Penske team for getting us out there. One of the coolest thing that happened the whole weekend. So obviously there's like 4 different classes that race. There's a GTD, GT4, sorry. Then there's the prototypes. We're just kind of walking around talking to people, and we went back to the media center, and we pressed the elevator button, and it opened like it had just kind of closed. There's a pack full of people. We're like, we're going to get the next one. It's all right. And they're like, no, come in. So we pack into this really tight elevator, and it's silent in there, and it smells like champagne and sweat. And then we turn to the corner, and there's 2 guys in racing suits just like kind of trying to get out of the way, clutching their first place trophies. It was the Hyundai team who had just won not only that race, but they won the entire championship for the whole season.
Whoa.
And they were like, Donut Media. And we're like, holy shit, you guys know who we are? And I was like, let's get an interview. And they're like, yeah, we got to do this press conference real quick. And we're going to come find you. Long story short, we didn't end up interviewing them because our schedules just didn't work out. But the drivers, Mason Filippi and Mark Wilkins, gave me this hat afterwards.
That's so crazy.
And it still smells like champagne and sweat. And so
He was wearing that during the celebration?
yeah,
Whoa.
this got sprayed with champagne on the podium.
That's so cool.
It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So thank you to the Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai team, and congrats for winning the whole season and
Congrats.
giving me that cool memory.
That's super
Oh, yeah.
cool, dude.
Yeah.
Speaking of racing, Nolan, you might have had the biggest weekend out of any of us.
I'm extremely exhausted because we got back last night from the NORA 500 down there in Ensenada, Mexico. We raced the Ranger and experienced the violence and pain and joy of desert racing.
Whoa,
Just
beautiful.
You're just in a rock tumbler for 10 hours a day.
But now you're so shiny, though.
I feel good. Yeah.
He's bronze.
I'm
I
a
don't know if
little
you can
burnt.
tell. He's
I
bronze.
forgot to put on sunscreen. But man, that was, I mean, I'm still like processing how everything that went down. It was just insane. The video, I hope, is going to be like, I'm just really stoked for it. I want it to be long.
Yeah.
So much stuff went down. So much stuff broke. So many problems had to be solved, just logistically and mechanically and spiritually. And it was an incredible experience. And there was one moment there where it was day 2. Adam and Justin were in the truck. They were like halfway through the final stage of the race, and we pull into this little town called Arendia, and it's like this little village right on the coast.
Didn't you
And-
stay there?
Yeah,
You were in Arendia?
yeah, that's where I stayed over at Coyote Cal's, the hostel right
Dude.
up there.
Like,
It's cute.
Beautiful
Spaghetti and
place.
curry.
That's where I had the best street tacos I've ever had.
Whoa.
It's just a beautiful, then. So like you're just like this cliffside looking into the ocean,
Mhm.
and like it's not a sand beach, it's like a big rock beach. And as the waves come in and pull out, you hear the sound of thousands of rocks clanking against each other, and it's like no other sound
Whoa.
I've ever heard before. And we stopped there to get drone footage of the truck going through the village and all that kind of stuff. But we just stayed there for like 20 minutes, just all of us just looking into the ocean, just like serene as hell.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. And I feel like a new person. Last year I did Bonneville, and that was kind of like a similar kind of, after doing that, after you do any sort of like huge motorsport event like that, I think you just like have time to reflect and be like, wow, I've been remember like when you were a kid and you had to like defrag your hard drive on your computer?
Yeah.
That's something like kids do not know anything about, but like that is
It was a little puzzle piece.
yeah, it just goes like burp, burp, burp. I don't
Yeah.
even know that's what I felt like my spirit has gone through now after doing that.
Good.
Yeah.
Frag your spirit.
Little, chiropractic brain
Yeah.
bringing out.
Speaking of which, for the last 6 months, my shoulder's been like pretty fucked up. Like I think I had like a pinched nerve or some sort of impingement going on.
Yeah.
It was bad. It started getting bad after we test drove the new Tacomas back in the spring down
Yeah,
in
you were
San Diego.
jumping them around.
Yeah, and
and
like
everything.
messed up my shoulder. Just tweaked it really weird. And then after being in that truck, I feel like there's just so much shaking and just things going on.
Yeah.
Like I think it fixed it.
Oh my
Like
God.
it feels so much better.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So it was really cool. I mean, you guys will see it in a lot more detail in the video. That'll be out in probably like at least a month or so.
Yeah,
I
we got to
wanna say.
spend some time working
Yeah.
on that one.
It's going to be a big video. But that was just a tiny slice of my experience down there. And we are going to be back out there with the Ranger. That thing is a monster.
Oh, yeah.
We built like, in terms of the cars that we've built, in like capability wise, E36, very, very good drift car. Like the Z is obviously fun, but like still needs some refinement.
Yeah.
The Ranger, I think overall might be like our best built, most capable
Wow.
car that
That's
we
awesome.
not like literally capable, but in terms of like the discipline that we chose, it's good and like drives really well.
Hell yeah.
And we only had a few issues that we can revise and head back out there and have a really sturdy truck.
That's
And
awesome.
all
Yeah.
it took was putting the most money we've ever put into a car ever before.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all it took.
and
it's true.
time and
Time,
yeah.
effort. I mean, everybody here at Donut had like some role in putting that thing together at some point.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to represent Donut down there, and like so many people in Ensenada were saying what's up and like stoked to see us out there, and like specifically racing in NORA, which is kind of like, you know, Score is like the big time, like they do the Baja 1000, the 500, like they're like the Formula One, we'll say, the IMSA, if you will, of off-road racing.
Oh, now I understand.
Score, like the top organization.
Yeah.
But NORA is more of like a grassroots, more just like a lower tier in terms of popularity, but like they were really appreciative of like us highlighting their organization.
Because NORA was the one that did the
they actually
first
did the
Baja 1000.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh.
So
they sold it to Score.
That's
Score
right.
took over at some
That's
point.
right.
Well, congratulations, Nolan, dude. I can't wait to see the video.
It's
and
gonna be sick.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
gonna be
believe
really good.
you survived.
Yeah, I almost didn't. Not literally, but like day one, we had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Was it really hard to, like, did you eat in the car?
No, that was the other thing. We were in the car. Mike, Day, and I were in the car for like, I want to say like 5 or 6 hours before meeting up with Low Truck again to like fix an issue. But I hadn't eaten that whole time, and I hadn't had water that whole
Oh
time.
my God.
So we were like, I was in a zombie-like state.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll see.
Nolan gets hangry.
I do for sure, but I also like get just like, if I don't eat after a certain amount of time, I'll just like start mentally decaying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was really fun, and now let's have some more fun.
Yeah, check out the video when it comes out.
Yeah, we'll let you know. And you know what? It'd be cool to have
A viewing party.
viewing party, yes, but also
At Coyote Kells.
I think maybe we'll have Justin and Adam on the week that the video comes out.
Yep.
We could talk more about it.
It'd be really fun.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about our stories this week. We got some breaking news for you, guys. The Corvette ZR1, it just hit a top speed of 233 miles an hour,
Wow.
making it the fastest car available for under $1 million.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It won't even approach that price tag. I'm thinking probably under 300 grand for
So
that
this
car.
is
Yeah.
the C8. What's
ZR1.
different about the
ZR1?
ZR1? This is the one with a twin turbo.
It's a twin
got
turbo,
Yeah.
1,064 horsepower. It is not the top trim, though. They're still talking about coming out with the Zora,
Mm.
which is also adds the electric engines of the E-Ray, and I think it's 1,264 horsepower, something like that.
Whoa.
So there's, maybe the Zora can go 240.
I think it'll go
Yeah.
250.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, huge accomplishment by Chevy and the Corvette team there. 233 is cooking. And
for them.
I mean, look, it's still going to be expensive, like relatively, but like, again, against its competition, though, like nothing else.
No, I mean,
That's
that's like
class.
Bugatti territory.
Well, guy.
Yeah.
A Bugatti.
Truly. Speaking of supercars, a company out of Long Beach has plans for their own supercar. If you haven't heard of Oil Stain Lab before, it's an auto shop that primarily builds one-off concept cars. It's founded by twin brothers Nikita and Ilya Bridan here in SoCal back in 2019. They had their little reveal last week.
Yeah.
They recently finished up their concept called the Half 11 that they displayed at Goodwood earlier this year. The design, though, was so popular that people called them up and asked if they could buy a running version of that car, and Oil Stain Lab said, why not?
All right, let's take a look at this Oil Stain Lab.
So this is a road-going car right here, and their goals with it are pretty insane. The target weight is 2,000 pounds. The engine is going to be a 650 horsepower, 4.5-liter flat six that can rev to 12,500 RPM.
12,000.
That
Mhm.
sounds like a Porsche engine.
And it will also come with a 860 horsepower electric motor that owners can supposedly swap out with the ICE engine in their garage, depending on their mood.
In their garage, just plop it out and put the electric one in.
Plop
Maybe
it
it's
out.
like a modular
it back in.
subframe kind of thing.
Whoa.
So a running prototype is planned for the spring of next year, with a total of 25 cars planned.
And they're all sold out already, I heard.
Damn.
Damn, son. Let's
It
take a
looks
look
sick.
at it.
The front looks sick. It does have those 992 style headlights.
Mhm. Got the eyes.
Porsche guy over here.
I dabble.
Yeah.
Now that Penske Porsche is flying me
Yeah.
out everywhere, I'm a big Porsche guy.
You see what I mean, though? Like the front half 911, the rear half is just kind of this like race car looking
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Very racy, a very aggressive amphibian look to it, I would say.
Sick as hell.
Amphibian, huh?
2,000
so
pounds, 600 something horsepower.
That's gonna be hard to control.
Yeah, that thing's gonna be a bit squirrely.
I wouldn't touch that gas pedal with a 12-foot pole.
Oh, speaking of gas pedals, in our Baja truck, the gas pedal fell off.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just like a Cybertruck.
Well, yeah. So the gas pedal broke, and then Mike and I on day one had to drive. There's like a little bit of a nub left on the throttle, so we had to drive with like our foot was all the way forward. And we're driving with this little nubby guy on the firewall the whole time.
Wow,
that's crazy.
You should have put in one of those gas pedals that was like a barefoot.
Yeah,
instead.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, I wish.
Bigfoot gas pedal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that was that. So anyway, the oil stain, the half 11 looks pretty sick.
Yeah,
very cool.
Dude, if I drove that car, it'd be called the underwear stain car because I can't handle that car too much.
Yeah, let's just say there'd be plenty of skid marks happening if I got behind the wheel of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice job, guys.
Getting older, I'm realizing like I just drove 729 horsepower Cayenne, and it was too much. It's too fast for me.
Is that the GT3 one?
No, it's the turbo e-hybrid.
Okay.
It's a sick car. We'll have a review that will live on Instagram on the Donut Podcast channel. I'm like, the older I get, the more I'm realizing that like 400, 500 horsepower is perfect for a guy like me. I'm not going to run out of talent.
400 is like the perfect amount.
Really. I know. I love 400 horsepower. Like that, the Gunther Works 911.
It was like 450, something like that.
That was like perfect.
Great car.
I love that car.
So yeah, you didn't like it then.
So that's why I'm saying like this would be an awesome car to own, and 16-year-old me would crash this in a second.
Oh yeah.
But now, older Joe knows I shouldn't even get close to this thing.
Something I want to get close to now that I've been in Baja myself, a new Raptor. Yeah, that's right. If the F-150 Raptor wasn't hardcore enough for you, Shelby has just upped the ante. Last week, Shelby released the F-150 Raptor Baja. So it comes with two engine options. You can get the EcoBoost V6 making 550 horsepower or a 900 horsepower Whipple supercharged V8.
That's the one I want.
It also has 37-inch tires like our Ranger. It's got an off-road lighting package and a Fox live valve shock system on there, which is pretty cool. There's no pricing information yet, but we do know that Shelby's standard F-150 costs around $130,000. So this is probably going to cost around $200,000 if I had to guess.
Yeah,
cool.
And you can drive to the mall in it.
So I watched the whole documentary on Ford's Baja history, which is why they developed the Raptor in the first place.
Yep.
The Raptor by itself could hold its own with stuff that you were doing this weekend, right?
Probably.
So this thing, just with added suspension and some other features, I think is going to be a beast. No one is ever going to use it to its full potential, but it's still such a flex.
Yeah, I mean, I bet Shelby's going to be out there maybe or there'll be a team campaigning one of these maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see the spare tires being held in there by that bed rack system.
Yeah, not a lot of bed space in there.
37s is pretty good. That's what we got on
it's
our
also
Ranger.
A quad cab.
Quad cab, so you can bring your homies with you.
Yeah.
Chris Forsberg was out there this weekend driving a Nissan Frontier that had been prepped for Baja, but his truck only had 33s, so they had some trouble navigating some of the obstacles. The silt, yes.
Dude, that silt is no joke.
No.
This feels like we had the Hennessey Mammoth 1000, which feels pretty comparable to this. It looks similar. It's got the same kind of front end. I would imagine that this is the same clientele that would buy that.
Yeah, I think so.
To be fair, 1,000 horsepower in a truck that's that large, it's very fast. It's faster than that truck should be, but it's not like, we were just talking about putting a 700 horsepower engine in a 2,000-pound car. This is a little more manageable, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely like that horsepower figure, just like the Porsche SUV. It's just like it's kind of just like for bragging rights, I think. Because like, what's more important than horsepower, now that I've been down in Baja, I know this, is the ability to finish and like reliability and all that kind of stuff. I was asking about this, asked some more experienced racers down there, like, hey, do people run like superchargers? Do people run turbos down there? And it's like, no, like you're going to suck in a lot of dust through with forced induction. It's not as reliable. So something like a supercharged desert truck like this, makes me raise an eyebrow.
When I drove the Hennessey TRX, it turned me into a bad person.
Yeah.
I became.
I didn't like
guy
being
when
around you when you were driving.
I mean, we're talking about like, because like, you know, the Hellcats will come up to you and they see it's a TRX and it's just like, oh, Kitty wants to play, huh? And then I let her eat.
Yep. Gotta let it eat. Absolutely. Man. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's probably really fun to drive.
Yeah.
I feel like an oil baron would drive this, you know?
Oil baron.
On his huge ranch in Texas.
I mean, there's so many people in like Riverside County that would pay for one of these. Orange County. This is an Orange County car right here, folks. 100%. Pretty cool. Cool seats. I saw one at like I saw a Shelby F-150 like normal one pretty recently. It was pretty badass.
Think about the size of the flag you could fly from the bed with this bad boy.
Big one. Big one. Everyone knows your affiliations.
Yeah, that's one snake you don't want to tread on.
Well,
it's a very American truck for sure.
Yeah. And on that note, we've got an American legend in the studio right now. Motorsport legend, GOAT, Tony Stewart. Tony, thank you so much for coming in today. This is really awesome. If you're somehow unfamiliar with Tony Stewart, Tony is a legend in NASCAR, but also you came up in but you are also extremely successful in the USAC series, winning the Triple Crown, as well as becoming Indy car champion. So many accomplishments, and now you're running Top Fuel in the NHRA. So
yeah, everybody thinks that was just my goal in life, was to run all this stuff, and my goal in life was to not have to work a real job. Because I learned really early in my life I was too lazy to work a real job. So this driving thing started showing promise, and so we've stuck with it, and here we are.
Hell yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So the car you're driving in NHRA is, I believe, 11,000 horsepower. Is that right?
Over 11,000.
Well, alcohol.
So it runs 90% nitromethane and 10% methanol.
Oh, wow.
alcohol.
Damn. How often are you rebuilding an engine in a car like that?
Every run.
Whoa.
And I mean, when I say every run, if you line up at the starting line and it goes 6 inches and smokes the tires and they lift, you're still rebuilding it.
Wow.
Every run.
And can you do that in the pits right there and swap it all out?
Those guys can literally tear it down to a short block and rebuild it in 40 minutes.
That's unreal.
Ready to fire up again.
That's crazy.
So it is controlled chaos. It's very choreographed. The thing that's impressive from my standpoint, coming from so many different forms of motorsports, is you watch these guys work on this thing together. Well, if one guy shows up and he's a little slow and he's having a bad day, it throws everybody off.
Oh, yeah.
But the same is the opposite too. If you have a guy that's just got a great night's sleep, had a cup of coffee, and he's full of piss and vinegar in the morning and shows up and he's like ready to rip the world apart, if he's faster than everybody, it throws it all out of sync again.
Yeah.
So the cadence and how you do everything is super important with those cars as well.
In sync with everyone.
And I never would have thought that till I went and physically had the opportunity to watch it and get to know more about it. But literally, I mean, the timing and cadence of everything and how everybody timing wise works around each other, because you're in a small area around a motor like that. But to do what they do in such a short amount of time, everybody has their role, their specialty of what they do. There's a guy that does heads. There's a guy that does the racks with the pistons and rods, a guy that does bottom end, guy that does blowers. I mean, everybody has their responsibility, and to watch these guys work together as a unit, it's pretty impressive.
And not only is it just under time duress, but also everything is hot as shit.
Yeah, I was going to
I
ask.
hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Is everyone in just like those volcano suits handling everything?
No, the guys that do the clutch, I feel like should be though, because literally they pull that thing out of the car and they've got the volcano gloves basically.
Yeah, they got oven mitts on.
And
it's
when
like
they
molten.
move, everybody gets the hell out of their way, like right now.
Holy
Like
shit.
it's hot rock, hot rock, hot rock.
That's crazy.
And that's the hottest part and component on the car are those clutch discs when they pull the clutch in.
They essentially weld together as it goes down the pass, and then as it cools off, the plates start to separate.
Wow.
Yeah, there's been times like I've heard them talk about it until I really started doing it this year. There's times when you get out of the throttle and it's like a go-kart clutch. It's a centrifugal clutch. But when it gets to the end of the run, I mean, as the motor slows down and when the speed goes away, then the weights on the fingers aren't putting the pressure on and it releases the motor and it just coasts the rest of the way like a go-kart would. There's been multiple runs this year where I had 2 runs in particular where it welded the clutch together and literally just, it's bumping cylinders as it comes to a complete stop. And they're trying to rock the car to get it to come loose. And like you said, it just cools off enough that it breaks it apart and then it'll roll again.
Is this the most exciting type of racing you've ever done? Or
I think all of it's exciting, but for different reasons. But this is the most powerful, explosive form of motorsports I've been a part of. I mean, you got to remember, I went from NASCAR where we were in the car for 3.5 hours. Now I'm driving a car 330 mile an hour and 1,000 feet that lasts 3.5 seconds.
That's insane.
So it is definitely, there is no feeling like it. I mean, there's really nothing that
like what
compares
kind
to
of
it.
G's are you pulling?
So up to 6 on the run.
Oh my God.
And then when you throw the parachutes, which this is the important part to me, some of my buddies were smart enough to ask the important questions, and they go, what's it feel like when the chutes come out? I'm like, relief. Because, you got a much better shot at not dying at that point. You're slowing down. But it's 6 positive G's during the run. And then when you throw the chutes and they blossom, it's 6.5 negative G's.
Oh
So you got a 12 G swing there.
How do you prep for something like that? Like, do you go through the astronaut rigs that they do where they train the guys?
No, it's
See what
trial
happens?
by fire. It's nobody just jumps in a top fuel car and says, hey, I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
I mean, I was at least had enough common sense, and thank God my wife didn't throw me to the wolves too bad. She was the one I really didn't trust out of this whole equation. I'll come back to that. But I ran the top alcohol dragster last year, which is a car that runs the full quarter mile. It's the fastest quarter mile class they have.
Mhm.
5.2 seconds and runs anywhere between 270 and 280 miles an hour.
God.
Essentially, very similar engine, just running the alcohol. And do they run 2 magnetos in that, or is it?
They do run 2 mags, but they don't have a blower. That's the major difference. And they actually run 5% more nitro than they do with the top fuel car.
That is unreal. There was a moment in NASCAR just a couple of days ago with this crazy drift. Did you see that video?
It was
Let me pull it up for
Kozlowski
Mhm.
at the Roval.
Yeah,
I
we
wanna
should
watch
show
it
them.
now.
Let me show you this.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I mean, it looks like he's doing the outside wall at Irwindale right
Yeah.
there. That's pretty
wild.
sick.
And I bet if we had him here right now, he'd say there was probably 80% luck in that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now he did his part of steering it the right way and trying to control it with his feet. But, with those cars now, they have a rack and pinion steering versus the old steering box version. And the steering boxes were way more forgiving steering wise.
Okay.
The rack is so positive. Any input you put in the rack, it's moving the wheels right away. So it was really hard for guys when they went to this new car and to try to learn how to drive with the rack steering because it was just so positive. It's like still 90 degrees turns the wheel 90 degrees, but just the input. I mean, with a box, it winds the bar up in the box and just kind of numbs everything up a little bit. This is a way more positive input. So to do that was impressive, but I guarantee you he's not going, I had it the whole time. He's not saying that.
No.
Big thank you to our sponsor this week, Yamaha. Guys, life is an adventure, and it's time to let more people in on the fun and share the journey. Introducing Yamaha's latest terrain-conquering side-by-side that combines class-leading power with maximum comfort and versatility. The all-new Wolverine R-Max 4 1000 has ample room for 4 adult passengers. They better. 4 of me in there, that's a lot of room. Plus, plenty of cargo space, so you can tackle new terrain, expand your horizons, and go further than ever before. Side-by-sides are pretty much roller coasters that you control. These things are super fun. If you've never ridden in a side-by-side or driven one, get down to your Yamaha dealer. Go for a little test drive if possible. You won't regret it. Experience its capability at YamahaMotorsports.com and see your local dealer today. Always protect the environment and wear your seatbelt, helmet, eye protection, and protective clothing. Read the owner's manual and product warning labels before operation. Have you had a chance to drive the next-gen car at all?
I actually did. I didn't get to do it anywhere super cool. I mean, I got to do it at a really cool racetrack at Bowman Gray Stadium in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I mean, they call it the Madhouse because when they have weekly racing there, somebody's fighting every weekend there. But I actually did that test for Goodyear to do the tire for the Coliseum here in LA.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool to get a chance to do that. But I didn't get a chance. I'd love to have tried to do a test at Sonoma with it.
Yeah.
I love the road courses and, like Richmond or a track like that I really liked would have been fun.
So in the Coliseum, was it like, it's only a quarter mile, right?
Right.
Is it just so different than like a half mile or like full 2 mile track? You just have to, like, your top speed is obviously like capped at a certain point. But it
That's really
felt like
annoying.
we went to the Clash
Yeah.
and there's a red flag every 2 laps. Like
Yeah.
people are just so close together. Is that not fun? Like as a driver, are you not having that much fun?
It almost was too small. And,
Yeah.
and it for sure was too small. But the reason they did it, I mean, it's LA. I mean, it's a awesome
It's a really
market
cool
to come
event
race
from
at.
an audience perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be in the Coliseum like that, I mean, nobody when the Coliseum was built ever thought, you know what, they're going to run a NASCAR race in here one day.
Right.
But
Yeah.
to be able to do that and pull it off 2 years in a row like NASCAR did was awesome. I was fortunate enough to do the Fox broadcast for that
Oh, cool.
and loved it. But I'm like, I'm glad I'm not racing there because I would have wanted to fight half of the field when the race was over because guys were knocking each other out of the way. Like
Yeah.
you said, somebody's getting turned every corner.
Mhm.
The speeds weren't high at all, but it was
yeah.
it was a very technical track, which was what made it fun watching and commentating it, knowing what they were having to do driving the cars. And most of those guys figured out really quick with a 5-speed transmission versus a 4-speed. They were shifting every straightaway.
Wow.
So one gear change and then downshift, one gear change and a downshift. So there were four times during the lap that they were shifting gears.
Wow.
I realize
whole
that.
race.
Wow.
And Pitbull performed as well. Who can
I
forget
mean,
that?
yeah, I mean,
Mr. Worldwide. I think he really brought everybody together. Kept the peace, you know?
yeah, we're still seeing the effects from it. I mean, as you can tell.
So going back to the drifting, you said outside in the parking lot that drifting was the most difficult type of racing that you've done? Or
Yeah, we've got to do some really cool promotions with our partners with Mobile One, and I got to drive Lewis Hamilton's Formula One car.
Oh,
really?
wow.
I didn't know that.
Amazing.
I got to drive a tank and crush cars with a tank, which
Holy
was pretty
shit.
cool, which I really wanted to bring that home. I also wanted to bring it out to LA for traffic today. I thought I could make better time. But I got to partner up with Von Gittin and get a chance to drive a Mustang around and and he was, bless his heart, having to ride with me while I'm trying to learn how to drift. And the track at Charlotte was actually at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it was part of the road course that's in the infield and a lot of grass. I wish it would have been a bigger area with way more asphalt. So if I made a mistake, I wasn't just dropping off in the grass. But my whole career, you know, you're taught to keep the tires hooked up and keep them pulling.
Yeah.
And drifting is the polar opposite of that. But there is a little bit of similarity between drifting and what we do with sprint car
I
racing
was going to say.
on the dirt tracks. So you're throttle steering. So that part I understood, but it just was so hard to be on a pavement track
Yeah.
and know that the whole time you're supposed to just be frying the tire around.
Yeah.
It just is a concept that is polar opposite of what I've been taught to do my whole life.
Yeah. And you started racing go-karts at what, 7 years old? So
Yeah,
that's a whole lifetime of just grip racing, and then all of a sudden transitioning to no.
Oh, hi, Edgar.
Hi, Edgar.
Shop
Edgar
dog.
and I are buddies,
Yeah.
man. I like dogs and animals better than I like people. So Edgar and I hit it off right away. We got an understanding. He's
Hilarious.
he's actually told the four of us that it was time for us to start working. So we all got started. I guess that was just a flyby to make sure we're doing all right.
Back to, sorry, you mentioned you got to drive Lewis's car. What year was that, and what? Where were you?
I don't remember what year it was, but we got to do it at Watkins Glen.
Oh, cool.
That's really fun.
I remember it was at the part of the season where we were pretty busy at Stewart-Haas Racing. So I remember locking myself in Gene Haas's office.
Mhm.
We had an iRacing simulator in there, and I literally ran it for 2 hours.
Wow.
Got out of that, went straight to the airport and flew to New York to go do the seat fit. And I think one of the things that really impressed me was they had my scan for my mold, my seat insert mold. They were able to take my insert and the scan from it and integrate it into their mold for their seats to fit in their car, and literally knew my measurements, knew how long my legs were, everything. I mean, had all this. Showed up at the track. We literally moved a heel block 1/8 of an inch.
Oh my
Wow.
That's the
God.
only adjustment we had to make. The seat belts were perfect. I mean, that's the attention to detail these Formula One guys
Wow.
have. I could not believe it, but it was fun for Lewis and I because we both took our own cars out, and it was misting in the morning, and I'd never ran a stock car in the rain or anything like that. I'm like, man, this is sketchy with these cars. I drove my car. Lewis drove his car. Lewis got into my car, went 5 seconds faster in my car than I did in my car.
Oh, damn.
5 seconds.
Now, it had stopped raining.
Right.
It was still
Okay.
wet, but it
Okay.
had stopped raining.
Yeah.
I got in Lewis's car and went 7 seconds faster in his
Whoa.
car. But it's because it it was way
Sure.
drier when I
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
run Lewis's car. But yeah, what an opportunity of a lifetime to drive a car that they had won a world championship with.
Yeah.
That was the car that had the really trick front wing with the arch in it. And you know, you watch the races and you listen to the commentary about what that wing actually does. I physically could see it in the car doing what it was designed to do.
Wow.
And it was meant to push down and flex the panels out, which gave it even more downforce.
Oh, wow.
And it was sick to be inside that car and watch that. It was so cool.
That is a dream.
But that was, yeah, I mean, it was 4 laps I got to run. Lewis ran 4 in mine. I got to run 4 in his. Cool. One of the coolest things I've ever done in motorsports.
Yeah. As a person, was he a pretty cool dude?
Oh, he's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. We had for a couple of years shot some Mobil 1 commercials together. Super nice guy. They're way more prim and proper overseas than we are over here. And someone like myself definitely stands out over there as the oddball. But
Yeah.
you know, I kept trying to poke the guys when we did the seat swap deal at the Glen, and you know, all the team guys, very proper, very polite. And I'm trying to crack jokes just to try to get everybody to loosen up, because I'm like, I'm nervous as hell. I'm driving a multi-million-dollar race car that's won a world championship.
Yeah.
It's priceless. You know, you can't replace this thing. And just trying to get the guys loosened up so I could loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till the team principals left at the end of the night after the seat fit, they started loosening up a little bit, but you could tell they were apprehensive about it. Then once we drove the car the next day, again, once the team principals left, then those guys really loosened up, and we were all
cool.
buddies then, and
That's awesome.
got them to relax and let their personalities out. But it was really, really a cool experience to be able to do something like that. I mean, to go for me racing go-karts to running dirt cars and have the opportunity to race NASCAR, IndyCar, and get a chance to drive a Formula 1 car. And now we're way on the other end of the spectrum running a 11,000 plus horsepower top fuel dragster is pretty cool.
For listeners who are not familiar, Tony's the only one in history to ever complete the double, the Indy 500 and also the Coca-Cola 600. That was in 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, like, were you exhausted after the first race? Did it help you in the second race? Because you finished in a better position in the second race, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I did it twice. I actually did it in 99 and 2001.
Oh, wow.
In 99, I was one of the 3 owners of the IndyCar team. The first year was the one that really I struggled with, because I mean, you can look at me. I'm not heading down to Gold's Gym or anything like that. Like, I'm going a block out of my way to go around Gold's Gym, so I don't even go next to it. I was not into nutrition or fitness or any of that. Knew I was going to have to hydrate. Had no idea you need to start that the week before, not the day of. I was drinking water like they were going to throw it out, you know, if I didn't drink it right then. Didn't eat the whole day, like just was full from drinking water, and it bit me late in the day. We finished 9th, I believe, at the Indy 500, and it was a weird year. Some of the cautions fell at weird spots. Got a lot of guys lapped down. We were 4 laps down.
Oh, wow.
So go down to Charlotte, have to start at the back because we missed the driver's meeting, and I think got up to 4th. So 9th and 4th the first time, and then in 2001, I drove for Chip Ganassi at the Indy 500, and we finished 6th. We actually had a shot. We were leading the race. Rain came. They had 40 laps to go. We were going to have to make a pit stop, and Chip came in and goes, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "These are the 2 options we have." And I said, "Well, I didn't come here to get a participation ribbon, and I finished 5th in this. All I care about is winning it." So we took a chance when they opened the pits, came in and pitted. If we didn't have a caution flag the rest of the way, we were going to have half the time on the pit stop, and those cars are covering a football field in a second. So that was a big deal to be able to shave some of that time off the pit stop. Unfortunately, right before that pit cycle started for everybody that hadn't pitted, we got a caution, and they all got to come in, and it saved everybody. And Michael Andretti and I had to work our way back up. He got up to 5th. I got up to 6th, was the best I could pull out of it. Then went to Charlotte, started at the back again, finished 3rd. So we went from 9th and 4th to 6th and 3rd in the 2 years that we did it, but completed all 1,100 miles the second time.
Wow.
The first one was pretty entertaining because, like I said, didn't have anything to do with nutrition and working out and all that. Literally, I remember my teammate Bobby Labonte at the time. He had just started getting into cycling and was into nutrition and power bars and all that stuff. And I'm in the motorhome drinking Cokes and eating Oreos and stuff, each night. And I remember early in the race, we were probably like 100 laps into it. It's a 400 lap race, 600 miles. 100 laps into it. I'm like, I am starving. Like, know that I'm hungry. And normally your adrenaline's going, your mind's not thinking about food or anything else, you're just focused. I was so hungry that I was like, this is a distraction. So I'm like, see if Bobby's trailer, see if he's got some of his power bars. I'm like, that'll get us through the end of this. They come back with a chocolate flavored power bar. I'm like, well, all right, I like chocolate. I mean, it fits my mold. So this is going to be great. So get a caution flag. Somebody blows a motor or something and oils down the racetrack. So we come in for our pit stop, hand them the old drink bottle. They hand me a new drink bottle. I sit it in my lap and they hand me this power bar. So get back out on, finish the pit stop so we're not losing track position, get going. It's going to be a long caution. This power bar they had the wrapper about halfway down and it was straight up and down. By the end of one lap in the car, because it was so hot that day, it had started melting and was curled over. So this became a big comedy. Like if we could have had all the in-car footage from it, I promise you it is Comedy Channel worthy. I literally thought, okay, I'll straighten it out with my glove. Well, then it stuck to my glove. I'm driving the car with my knee. My knee is holding the steering wheel, and I'm sitting there like stuck to myself. And
chocolate fingers.
To get this thing pulled off, and I'm like, whatever, So problem is our helmets with the air systems we have, they used to pump in the side, so we had a flap that went over the top of your nose, and you had one under your chin to keep the cool air here and not let hot air come in from other places. So I've got to now, again, use my knee, hold the steering wheel. Now, keep in mind, like I said, somebody oiled the track down, blew a motor. So they've got all the kitty litter, we call it kitty litter out there, the oil dry out there. It's swirling around in the car. Now I have a chocolate flavored power bar with sprinkles on it. So take my right hand, push the chin flap out, cram this thing up. It really curls up in a ball and wads it up. So now I'm back to the steering wheel and stuck glove deal again. And I'm like, I'm going to get one shot at this and one shot only. So I finally get it up in there. I mean, I cram as much of this bar in my mouth as I can. And that's when you wish you had an open face helmet versus a closed face, because I look like our friend over here, like the dog with a mouthful of peanut butter. And thank God it was a long caution, but that got me the majority of the way through the race, got me feeling better.
Wow.
About 30 laps from the end of it, I needed to be anywhere but inside the car. The white line on the bottom is probably 6 inches wide, and it looked like it was 3 feet wide. And I remember some rapper blew across the backstretch, and I thought it was a pink elephant with polka dots. It's like, I don't need to be in this race car right now. But
you're just delusional.
Yeah, I was just exhausted, like physically and mentally exhausted. Yeah. It was hot in Charlotte. It was really hot in Indy that day. I was exhausted after the 500, and then had to run 600 miles the next day. So Gibbs made me hire a trainer for the second attempt. So we got a guy that was a trainer from the Carolina Panthers football team, and he was with us for 6 weeks.
Cool.
Before that, I lost 6.5 pounds in 6 weeks just with the food he was making me have. But you'd be at one of the tracks and you'd be in a session in a debrief, and he'd hand in a Dixie cup. You just see his arm come in behind the curtain, and it's just a Dixie cup, and you didn't know whether it was going to be water, it might be apple juice, didn't know what it was, but just everything he made me eat and drink. I literally could have ran another race after I ran all 1,100 miles the second time. If there would have been a racetrack that I could have ran a 30-lap A main after that in a sprint car,
my God,
I'd have done it in a heartbeat. It would have been so cool.
Nutrition is pretty commonplace now, and especially F1 drivers train around the clock, even in the off season. It didn't used to be that commonplace, though, huh?
No, it's definitely picked up. I mean, obviously, it started in Formula One, like you mentioned. I think IndyCar was next on that train, and then the NASCAR guys got into it, and I was like, "You all have fun. I'll be in the room and the air conditioning. You guys go out and run your." I mean, there would be groups of guys, and a bunch of the drivers actually started bringing bikes, and the crew guys would bring bikes to the track, and they'd go out on rides on Saturday afternoon after happy hour was over. You'd finish at noon. The garage would close at 3, and you'd see the Tour de France rolling through the bus lot heading out, and they know where they're going. I mean, we run all these tracks every year, and they knew where to go ride, and big groups of them doing it, and then a handful of us stay back and eat all the food they didn't want to eat. So
that's wild. That's like skateboarding too. I mean, everybody was just like drinking beers and eating shit for years, and then all of a sudden the Olympics came around. Everybody's like just so dialed and trained up. So different.
That's why I got into drag racing, because at the end of the night I can drink beer again, and it's not a drama. You're only driving for 3.5 seconds at a time, so it's not like, it's different when you got to be in a 145-degree car for 3.5 hours.
Totally.
The good thing, you get suited up, in your drag race uniform and helmet and get in the car and get buckled in, you're normally in there 20, 25 minutes tops. And your run that you really got to be ready for is only 4 seconds long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit different. My wife she's one of those that's real healthy and stands on the scale every other day and critiques everything. And I'm like, what'd you lose? She goes, 2 pounds. I'm like, cool. I got it. Just let me know when you want it back. I got on there before you. So but you do have to be fit. Even as much as I joke about it, like you don't have to be fit to drive a drag car. I mean, like we talked about the G-forces. I mean, my back every night. I mean, qualifying days, we only run 2 runs a day, and you get done at the end of the day and you feel like somebody's driven a school bus over top of your back.
Wow.
So it's just the G-forces alone. I mean, you do have to be fit, and those drivers, even in NHRA and especially in the top fuel and funny car ranks, there's a lot of guys that have extensive workout programs.
Wow.
I'm still holding the fort down on the other side though.
Yeah, your wife, Leah Pruett, NHRA driver, top fuel driver. Did she introduce you to the sport, or how'd you guys meet, and how did you end up in the top fuel car?
So I had went to a couple races when we formed Stewart-Haas Racing. One of our partners was the U.S. Army, and so Ryan Newman had the Army sponsorship on his car driving for us, and I got invited to go to the U.S. Nationals and hang out with Tony Schumacher, who had it on his car. So that was my first real introduction to drag racing, but I stayed out of the way and didn't really know anything about it and wasn't around too much of it. I met Leah through Don the Snake Berdome, and he's the one that introduced the two of us. And we literally went on our first date the Monday, the week that COVID started. That Friday that everything shut down. Our first date was 5 days earlier, or 4 days earlier than that.
Wow.
And we started dating during COVID. Our second date was actually what was supposed to be a 4-day trip to her house in Arizona, and Indiana shut down. My pilot goes, I don't even know if I'm legally allowed to pick you up and bring you back into the state after being out of the state. So all this stuff's happening. Our second date lasted 4.5 months. We were 24/7 for 4.5 straight months on our second date.
It's a good test.
Yeah, it sure is.
You either love somebody or you want to kill somebody in 4.5 months. Right. So when racing started, my dirt track racing started back up. I'd already retired from NASCAR and was running wing sprint cars, and that was my passion. So she went to sprint car races and followed us. And then when the NHRA started going back racing, I went to all of her races, didn't miss one after that, and really fell in love with it. Leah and I are so close to, as far as the way our demeanor at the racetrack, our passion for racing. It was like looking back at myself. So it was really easy to get along with her at the racetrack and not be in the way, and know when she needed space, know when she didn't, know when she wanted to talk about things. And I really fell in love with the sport. So, the next step for me was I wouldn't even go in the crew chief lounge when they would debrief after a run. And finally did that, and I would listen to her talk about a run. I'm like, it only lasted for 3.5 seconds. We've been here for 25 minutes talking about what the hell this car did. Yeah. I'm like, it's way quicker than that. But you listen and just in my mind, I'm listening to her talk about how she had to drive it during the run, and I'm like, I think I know what that's like, but you don't know what you don't know. So I went down to Frank Hawley's driving school in Florida, drove a supercar car 6 runs in the morning. Ran his top alcohol dragster, which his top alcohol dragster's school car runs 220 miles an hour, which is still quick in a quarter mile. And ran it again the next day. And just to get an understanding of what I was listening to, I wanted to have some kind of practical knowledge of understanding the application for it and what it truly felt like. And gave myself a C report card. Felt like there were a lot of things that I truly didn't understand how much went into. It's not about just stepping on the gas and driving to the finish line. The procedure, everything about it, from the time you go to fire the car up to the time you turn off the racetrack, there's a lot of details that are very important. So it really opened my eyes up to all that. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to driving, so that C was not a good report card. Wasn't satisfied. Went back 3 months later and did it again, and just ran the alcohol car. We didn't bring any camera crew down to do stuff for our YouTube channel or anything. It was just Lee and I, and I was really focused on wanting to clean up and fix all the things that I didn't do right the first time.
That's awesome.
So I told you earlier, don't trust my wife sometimes. Well, that came after that. Her car owner, Don Schumacher, and Leah said, well, we can take you to a test session. You can run the top fuel car. So this is a woman I spent 4.5 months in quarantine with. And I'm like, think she likes me and feel like I should be able to trust her in this scenario. And the guy that owns the car and pays the bills for the car is like, oh yeah, you'll be fine. So we agreed to go to Vegas. We did a 2-day test. I made 7 runs in it. Ran 318 mile an hour. I think the ET, I think I ran 384 on the ET.
Damn.
And thought that, between these two, I'm like, all right, if this was a bad idea, they wouldn't be going, hey, let's go do this. But after I ran those 7 runs there. I tested a couple more times the day after events when they were doing testing and wanted to run through, running some new parts on the car, nothing that the driver's sensitive to. And, but it took about 13 runs and I'm like, this single-handedly could be the dumbest thing I've ever done in motorsports. Because I realized how fast this car is and how behind the car I was. I mean, the increments, the 330 foot cone is out there and the car would be at 330 with me in it. And my brain's at 200 feet going, wait a minute, what just happened?
Oh man,
what's going on here? Wait for me. And so what you learn is it's kind of like, building your muscles up. You go to a gym, you want to make your muscles bigger, you got to work into it and build up to it. Your brain has the capacity, and trust me, this is way out of my realm, but this is the only time I can speak about our brains. Your brain does have the capacity to learn and catch up. So one of the things when I went to the school was I had a hard time from the time the light would change and you hit the gas to get my eyes off the tree and get focused down track. I really struggled with that. And we'd cover 100, 150 foot before my eyes got focused on where we were going.
And that's just a matter of degrees too. That's, 10 degrees
it's not like
to the right.
Turn your head 90 degrees to get focused. Your head's already pointed in the right direction and your eyes are either up to the right or up to the left. All you gotta do is just move your eyes on target. And I had trouble with that. I'd never had to do that.
Wow.
And so when I went back 3 months later, my brain made the adjustment. So it's the best way to equate it is, having our cell phones and having multiple apps running but you've got them in the background. So you're not doing anything with it, but the app's still running. It's still doing what it's doing. And that's the way your brain is. It literally learned how to make that adjustment. When I went back the second time, that was my number one goal was to get my eyes on target. It happened the very first run.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And literally that was, Leah analyzes a lot of things, and that's when we got on this brain part of your brain can learn how to do these things even when you're not in the application that you're using it for. So
that's so cool.
But getting in the top fuel car, that was another step. And then all of a sudden I'm just finally in a car that's going so fast that my brain couldn't process the information as fast as it was happening.
That's nuts.
But it over time learned how to do that. And now I can, if the car moves 6 inches left or right, I can tell you where it's at on the racetrack.
Wow. That's crazy.
With your, I watched the video or the footage of your first top fuel round win, and it's so cool. When that win light comes on, the camera goes to Leah down in the box, and she's just not freaking out, but you see how stoked she is for you in that moment, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful video. I loved it. It was great.
You don't see the videos where the car doesn't make a good run,
right?
and she's stomping off the line like I would. But no, it's that's been one of the best parts about driving the car. I'm literally driving the car this year because last year she made a decision she wanted to start a family this year, and you can imagine. any pro athlete. For us guys, we can start a family, no problem. We can do our part in 30 seconds and go right back about our day.
That's right.
Just one top fuel run. That's all it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you should drive a top fuel car. You obviously have the talent. But, you can imagine trying to be a woman in motorsports and that is your passion. That's your love. That's what you love to do. And the strength that she had to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to get out of the race car because I want to start a family. I couldn't have been strong enough to have to make that decision, but I became the replacement driver, and that's how I ended up in the car this year, is just to fill in. It's her car, it's her team, and when she's ready to get back in that car, it's ready for her whenever she wants to come back.
It's so cool that you're so supportive as a couple and doing the same thing too. Like it could get contentious, but you guys are so supportive that it's like very healthy and it's fun to see.
It's healthy right now. She's coming up with, I have a really good habit of coming up with bad ideas, and she's starting to close the gap and follow suit. She, in her mind, the perfect world, because then the question became, well, what happens when she wants to come back and get in her car and I'm going to step out of this race car? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And she knows I'm an okay spectator for a little bit. Long term, I'm not a good spectator at all. It's like, I want to be doing it.
Yeah.
So, the questions of what am I going to do when she comes back? Well, her terrible idea is, well, we'll just start another Top Fuel team and we'll race against each other.
That's pretty fun.
And this is, and I can't believe, I mean, she's a very smart woman, and this is where I'm like, well, she can't be that smart. She married me, first of all. So, but I feel like this follows suit with it, with, the fact of, if I have to race against her, have to line up against her and race her, there's no win for me in this.
Yeah.
If I go turn on the wind light down there, I get an e-ticket to sleep on the couch for eternity. If I lose, then twice a day when I look at myself in the mirror, I got to sit there and go, yeah, I just got my ass kicked by my wife. And all my buddies are going to remind me that I got my ass kicked by my wife. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, like I said, I'm really proud of her. She's a very strong woman, very independent. When she makes her mind up that she's going to do something, whatever that decision is, I mean, she doesn't waver from it. I mean, you better have a really good reason why it's not a good decision that she's made. But, I'm really proud of her for what she does as a race car driver, and, what she's been as a partner to me and what she'll mean to our family is huge. So,
awesome.
Really proud of her.
Well, Tony, we are just about out of time. I just want to leave you with one question. What's your next bad decision?
I don't know. Normally there's multiple that run through the cycle each day. Luckily I've got a good support system that helps filter those out, and they remind me how bad of an idea it is. But I don't know. I like the fact that I have the creative mind on occasion to come up with bad ideas that somehow I think are really good ideas, or
That's great.
ones that are just good enough that we should try them, even though we know they're bad ideas.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tony.
Thank you guys.
Really
I appreciate it.
Anything you want to plug?
Like I said, we're excited about what we're doing in NHRA. We got 2 events left. We've got the race in Vegas coming up in 2 weeks. And then November 16th through the 18th is our finale at Pomona. So be crowning 4 pro champions and sportsman champions there. And literally 2 days after that race is when we're expecting our son. Wow. So Pomona's a big time for us. I love racing at Pomona. Like I said, last year we had Matt win the world championship there, and Leah was racing Doug Coletta, and the winner of that was going to be world champion as well. So unfortunately, Doug got it. Leah ended up 3rd in points because of it, but best season she's ever had. So Pomona's a really cool place for us.
That's awesome.
If you've never seen an NHRA event and never seen Top Fuel cars go down the track, get your ass out to these events that Tony's talking about. You will not regret it. It is something. There's nothing else like it. It literally shakes your skeleton seeing these cars go down the track. So get your ass out there. Once again, thank you so much, Tony, for coming in. And thank you for listening or watching, whatever your deal is. And we will see you next time.
See you later.